beauty and the biz. Tamani Tote is the founding creative director of Botswana-headquartered company White Label Fragrances, WLF, an African luxury niche fragrance brand and the first citizen-owned company of its kind. Palesa Mokobong is a South African-born international designer and founder of Mancho, a women's clothing line renowned for its distinctive signature prints and textiles. The label's bespoke garments balance a confident African aesthetic with an international sensibility. Yolanda Jawe, founder of Yols Beauty, South Africa's first black-owned sheet mask brand. Yolanda is a wife, mother, lifestyle content creator, and a beauty and wellness enthusiast. Yols is passionate about empowering women and promoting their well-being, mentally, physically, financially, and emotionally. Anne-Catherine Hughes is the founder and CEO of Standard Beauty. She started the business in the midst of the pandemic in June 2020 when she noticed a gap in the affordable skincare market, as most skincare items are very expensive. She believes daily consumables should be high quality without breaking the bank. And the moderator is Ashira Solomon, global speaker and running start advisor.
I'm so happy to be here with you guys today, all the way from Jerusalem, Israel, Jerusalema, as you guys call it. I was like, yes, to that song. We have an incredible panelist today of beauty and fashion entrepreneurs and rocking influencers, and we are going to take a behind-the-scenes look into this hardworking industry, from beauty to fashion to fragrance. In 2020, we've seen the COVID-19 pandemic impact many industries negatively in terms of revenue. However, we've seen a different trend when it came to beauty. For example, we've seen that in Lagos and South Africa, people were spending their dollars in retail meaningfully in brands like Louis Vuitton. So we've seen that people were still investing into luxury goods. Yols, I'd like to turn to you and ask you, as a thought leader and a YouTuber, what type of trends were you seeing in YouTube, and how were you able to capitalize off these trends that were happening during the pandemic to also start your skincare line?
Thank you, Ashira. Well, the hardest thing in COVID was, what do we create? I can't be doing my hair or putting on makeup and pretending we are not in a pandemic. So I would hide myself in the bathroom, personally, and sheet mask and chill. My husband, my son were not allowed in that room, and I figured, you know what? This is what is happening with a lot of other moms and wives. And if we as YouTubers are not able to read the room during that time, what are we doing? And then I realized my peers were going through the same things, and most of us actually decided to capitalize on just that, starting businesses within that time that spoke to the room. So we were able to read, a lot of us capitalized by just reading the room during the pandemic.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. So the pandemic inspired you to create your own business.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Turning to you, Palesa, your company is the first South African fashion house to collaborate with a global giant, H&M. This collaboration happened in 2019, 1 year before the pandemic. Can you talk about the trends you've seen in your own fashion company in terms of increase or decrease of sales? Were people still investing in fashion from your perspective? And can you tell us some of the creative ways you and H&M had to collaborate to maybe market differently during the pandemic?
Oh, thank you for that question. So my Mantu and H&M collection was extremely successful. It launched 3 months before the pandemic. It was a 1-year contract, and we thought it would last for a year, but it sold out locally and globally in 3 months.
Wow. Wow.
So by the time the pandemic hit, we had already consolidated the project, and we knew that it was a success. But internally, at Mantu, we had to come up with creative ways to keep the sales going and the business afloat, especially because I felt very strongly about supporting my staff financially throughout the pandemic. And we had luckily set up an e-commerce store 2 years prior to the pandemic. But we also launched, for the first 21 days of the lockdown, we launched a 21% sales online.
Wow.
And I mean, it was just a fun project that I decided to do it an hour before the actual shutdown. And I didn't think it would work at all. But the following day, I actually thought there was something wrong with my phone because it just kept going. Like it just, the sales, the online sales just kept ringing on my phone. And I thought, there's something wrong with my phone. People can't be shopping right now. But people were actually shopping. I think people were really disheartened and needed, and I think, that term retail therapy
Yes.
worked a lot. It worked, and I saw it working really well at the beginning of the pandemic and for a couple of months thereafter. So I would say that I saw sales increase for the first couple of months, and then after that it just was kind of the reality, I guess, set in.
Wow, that's really fascinating. There was a Deloitte study that stated 65% of South Africans were shopping online, investing in retail, and they stated 2 reasons why was the COVID-19 pandemic and the easiness of just doing retail therapy.
The convenience.
Online, the convenience, yes, so that's fascinating. Turning to you now, Tammy, as the founder of an African luxury fragrance company, can you speak to us about how the pandemic may have positively impacted your business in terms of maybe how you restructured your business model or rebranded or relaunched your fragrance?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I like it. You know why? Because I think for the longest time we've been fed the negative impact that COVID had. And obviously we were not exempt. We suffered greatly because of COVID. We went from running stores in Botswana to not having stores at all. We were forced to close our stores. And once that happened, we had to go back and look at restructuring our business because people, as much as people now were not going to the malls, and this was the reason why we closed our stores because it didn't make sense anymore, right? But people still wanted fragrances. I go back to the point that she was making to say retail therapy. We found that we had demand, but we needed to find how are we going to serve our market. And so we went from brick and mortar and we moved to having our, products in different either pharmacies or boutiques, and that allowed us to focus on our core business, which is manufacturing and creating the experiences. That's how we restructured. Now, the positive impact, we were forced to be more creative. This made us, look at what was around us to create strategic partnerships. We were offered the opportunity to create, during the pandemic, a scent for our country.
Wow.
Right? So in Botswana, our slogan is Pula, right? So because we don't get a lot of rain in Botswana is seen as a blessing, right? So I'm just going to educate you a little bit in terms of, So in Botswana, when you come to Botswana, we say, "Re go amogela ka pula," which means we welcome you with blessings, right? And then when you leave the country, we say, "Re go tsamaisa ka pula," which means we bid you farewell with blessings, right? So we got an opportunity to create a scent that smelled like rain. And this scent was diffused in the Dubai Expo 2020 for 6 months last year. So the positivity that came from that is that when international people went into our booth in Dubai, they got to experience Botswana as a whole, not only by seeing what we have, but also smelling pula, right?
Yes.
And from that, we then managed to get international clients that wanted us to create that experiences for them. So that's the positivity that came from that.
That's amazing, yes. And if you guys have noticed the lovely smell in this room, that is thanks to Tammy and her fragrance. Is it the rain diffusing in the room today, or which fragrance smell?
Oh, yes. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but when you come into the doors, when you walk through, there was like this beautiful citrus bergamot scent that you smelled. That's white label fragrances. We were scenting the space. We wanted you to experience. It's one thing to hear me, talk about what we do, but I would like for you to experience exactly the scents that we make. So that's what we did.
We're smelling a bit of Botswana today. Felisa, turning to you. Your company is an internationally renowned company, and I'd like to know, how do you compete with the international market? And how do you see being from South Africa and having South African designs set you apart from other international designers?
Oh, I love competing.
Okay.
Because I love excellence, and I think that's what competing is about. If you just bring your best foot forward, you can compete and hone your spot and own it, and that is all that you need. Thereafter, you don't need to compete. Once you claim your position, you don't really need to compete. You just need to sustain that. So I compete by sustaining, excellence. Well, at least I try.
I love
and
that.
If we fail at excellence, we land somewhere at like great or, amazing or really good. And I can live with that still.
So you would say that your spirit of always having excellency as your intention and your goal is what sets you apart from the rest of the world?
I think what sets me apart is my connection to women. I make clothes that make women feel like they're perfect.
Ooh, I need a piece.
I like that.
and that's the truth. I come from an imperfect country. I'm an imperfect person. I know what it's like to struggle for even just a good feeling on a good day or even a bad day.
Yeah.
And the spirit that I put in my clothes is the spirit that will make a woman feel.
Yeah. I feel good.
Perfect. And I think that is it's a noble. I feel like it is my job. I feel I take that responsibility really, seriously, and I inject it into my staff, and I think that is what women need. I think women carry the world on their shoulders.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We really carry the world on our shoulders. And when you put on a manto garment, it is an armor. You can go into any room and own it.
I love that. Thank you. Yes, round of applause. Jules, turning back to you. You are very passionate about wellness and self-care. Can you talk to us a bit about your skincare line and your mission and how your mission and what is the mission behind your skincare line?
So Y'all's Beauty started again in my bathroom during the pandemic. I also realized at that time, because everything was shut down, what if YouTube shuts down? How am I going to capitalize or actually get in touch with my subscribers on a physical level? I don't own the database of YouTube, so both things collided. Coming from a business background, I decided, because I was using all these sheet masks, most of them were either Western or Korean brands, and I didn't see my face on them. So I was like, well, if I want to see the change, most of the time I challenge myself to be the change. So, and also that thing of, I can't produce it in China. Everything is closed. So I literally searched and found a manufacturer here in South Africa, and within 3 months created, using natural ingredients, avocado, aloe, indigenous ingredients as well, like licorice root, and finding out what that does to our African skin, because majority of my subscribers are African women who literally get out and are hit by the African sun. And that's exactly what I thought, you know what, let's sit down with this, let's put in the money we've made from YouTube and create something for my subscribers. And I called it Honey Hydrate, because I call my honeys, and personalized that. And that feeling, once again, on wellness, I felt safe in my bathroom. I shut the noise of the world, and I wanted to share that with my subscribers. Another thing when you asked about trends is, we no longer want to push product that's owned by someone else.
Yeah.
Now we find pride in saying to our subscribers, this has got my name on it, yours beauty. It's made with love and it's made here at home.
I love that.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Very inspirational. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but before we leave, I want you guys all to answer my final question in 30 seconds or less, if you can. What is one piece of advice you would give to young women that are looking to enter into the business or industry that you represent, and that piece of advice that you wish you would have had entering into the business?
For me, that this is a serious business.
Thank you. Tammy?
One advice?
One.
So many.
Under 30 seconds.
It's possible. It's
possible.
possible. It can happen. It's, you know, whatever it is, and I know we say this all the time, whatever it is that you put your mind to it, you can do. I mean, nobody thought that we could have a fragrance brand birthed from Botswana, but we did, you know, so it is definitely possible.
Yours?
Feel the fear and do it anyway. Men think they've done it, but to be honest, we do it better.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I want to thank my incredible panelists for coming and joining us today at Forbes Africa Leading Women Summit 2023. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. Thank you.